Lesson 10, I will solve problems using a symbol for an unknown angle measure. All right, so we are going to use your math journal today, so I want you to go ahead and get that out, and I want you to go ahead and write today's date and Lesson 10, unknown angles. Once you get that ready, I want you to also go ahead and draw these two figures that I have here. I know that these are inside yellow rectangles, and obviously you don't have to draw the yellow rectangles, but I do want you to draw a line segment, and then I want you to draw this line segment here to create these two angles, and I want you to label them, and I want you to do the same thing over here. So be sure that you label them exactly like I did and try to draw them as accurately as you can. Get yourself a protractor or a ruler so that you can have nice straight lines. And then when you're ready, come back and let's take a look at these. All right, so we've been talking about measuring angles using a protractor, and today we're going to talk about how you can solve for an angle without a protractor. We're going to solve for the unknown angles, and you can see in this figure the unknown angle has been labeled X. And actually, if you used a protractor on this, you could have a good chance of getting this answer wrong, because whenever they give you an angle measurement like this and they don't tell you to solve with a protractor, then they're going to expect you to find the exact amount that they have in mind here. So if you used your protractor to try to measure this, you may not get the right answer. All right, so you might say to yourself, well, how am I going to figure this out if I don't use a protractor? Well, you have to use the information that you know. So when I look at this angle, first of all, I have two angles together, and it's been proven that if I take two angles and I add them together, then I will get the total of the combined angles. And I know that sounds a little wordy, but if you think about this angle, angle X, and angle 132 as equaling these angles together. If you look at this line right here, and I might need to change my color of my highlighter here. Let's try this. If you look at this angle, and you might say, well, that's not an angle, it's just a straight line segment, but it is an angle. And if you'll remember, we talked about something called a straight angle. Do you remember how many degrees are in a straight angle? Well, if you don't, let me tell you. A straight angle has a value of 180 degrees. So I want you to write this in your math journal. I want you to write x degrees plus 132 degrees equals 180 degrees. So if I take this angle that I know has a measurement of 132 degrees and I add it to angle X, that gives me an equal of 180 degrees. You can also think of this in terms of a tape diagram. You don't have to draw this. Well, actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and draw this. So let's think of it in terms of this, because we've solved several problems this way. Let's think of this as the total being 180 degrees. And that's 180 degrees, and I have 132 degrees, and I'm trying to solve for X. So whenever I have a problem like this, and I'm trying to solve for the unknown, what is my strategy here? Hopefully you said your strategy is subtraction. You would say 180 degrees minus 132 degrees gives you the value of X. So now all I have to do is subtract. So I can probably do this in my head pretty quickly, because I know 180 degrees minus 130 degrees would be 50 degrees. But I'm not taking away a total of 50 degrees. I have to add 2 back. So this would actually be 48 degrees. And I know that because if I added 132 degrees to 48 degrees, that would give me 180 degrees. So the value of X is 48 degrees. Okay, now let's take a look at the next figure that we have over here. First of all, take a look at this and ask yourself what's different. Well, over here on this side, you only had one angle. It was 132 degrees. Over here, we have two angles that are known. So we have a total of 3 angles, where over here we only had 2 angles. But ask yourself again, what's the same? Well, what's the same is they both combined create a straight angle. So let's see if we can apply what we used over here to solve this problem. So this time we're going to say x degrees plus 30 degrees plus 45 degrees equals 180 degrees. So it would look just like over here. Let's go ahead and draw ourselves another tape diagram. This time, instead of being divided into 2 parts, it's going to be divided into 3 parts. They have a total of 180 degrees again. I have 30 degrees, 45 degrees, and then I have X. So how would I solve for X? Well, if you'll remember from our problem solving that if you have two knowns and one unknown and we're trying to solve for this, there's a couple of ways to do this. I like to go ahead and combine these two. So 30 degrees and 45 degrees would be 75 degrees. So 75 degrees plus x equals 180 degrees. Now it's just like this problem over here. I just have to subtract 180 degrees minus 75 degrees gives me x. Well, 180 minus 75 would be 105 degrees. If you don't believe me, you can solve it out, but I know that 180 degrees minus 80 degrees would be 100, but this is actually 75 degrees, so I'll have to add 5 back, so it would be 105 degrees. So this is what we mean by solving for the unknown angle. And you'll notice I did not have to use a protractor because I knew that these angles added together were 180 degrees. All right, let's practice this a little bit in our problem set. So it says write an equation and solve for the measure of angle x. Verify the measurement using a protractor. Okay, so you will need a protractor here to verify your measurement. All right, now it says angle CBA is a right angle. So that tells me that unlike the ones that we solved in our journal, these added together don't equal 180 degrees. These added together equal 45 degrees. So I've got 45 degrees plus x equals 90 degrees. So remember how we're going to do this. It says write an equation to solve. So we're going to write an equation. Sorry about that. All right, so I'm looking to see if they gave us any room to write an equation. They already kind of made an equation, but I'm going to write another equation right over here, really small. I'm going to say 90 degrees minus 45 degrees equals x. Well, I know 45 plus 45 equals 90, so I know that x equals 45 degrees. And don't forget your degree mark. All right, so let's see if we can do this one. See if you can't fill out this equation by yourself and then come back. Hopefully you put x degrees plus 20 degrees equals 90 degrees because again it tells us that angle GFE is a right angle. So that tells me that together this is 90 degrees. So again 90 degrees minus 20 degrees equals 70 degrees. So x equals 70 degrees. All right, let's try another one. So this one tells us that it's a straight angle. So instead of equaling 90 degrees like a right angle, these two angles equal 180 degrees. So I know that x plus 70 equals 180 degrees. So if I take 180 degrees and I subtract 70, that would equal 110 degrees. All right, see if you can come up with the equation by yourself for number 4. Okay, hopefully you said 83 degrees plus x degrees equals 180 degrees. So if I took 180 degrees and I subtracted 83 degrees, I could do all the regrouping, but I know that 180 minus 80 is 100, and I'm going to subtract 3 more, so that would be 97 degrees. So x equals 97 degrees. All right, now we're going to go into something a little bit more complex here. You can see that we are actually have 3 angles here, and even though this one doesn't have any degrees in it, if you think really hard, you'll know how many degrees this is. What kind of angle is this? It's a right angle, so even though it doesn't say, with this little mark here, it's telling us that it's 90 degrees. All right, so let's write an equation here to solve. So 90 degrees plus x plus 36 degrees equals 180 degrees. So if you'll remember from our tape diagram in our math journal, you'll remember that we have 3 parts here, and we know that the total is 180 degrees. So if I have 90 degrees, 36 degrees, and x. So first I'm going to find the value of these two together, which would be 126 degrees. So now all I have to do is subtract these to solve for x. Why don't you try to do that and come back and then see if you got the same answer as me. Okay, so I have 180 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and write this. 180 degrees minus 126 degrees is going to equal x. Well, I know 180 minus 20 is 60 degrees, and I'm actually taking away 6 more, so this is going to be 54 degrees. Hopefully that's what you got. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. Again, same exact strategy, it's just turned sideways. So let's come up with an equation. Why don't you try to do this one all by yourself and then come back. If you get stuck, you can always press play and I'll walk you through it. Okay, so I have x plus 108 degrees plus 60 degrees again, equals 180 degrees. So x plus, I'm going to add these two together, that would be 168 degrees equals 180 degrees. So as you can see from the model, x is pretty small, and I can already tell when I subtract, this is going to give me a small number. So x is actually going to be equal to 12 degrees. All right, now, in the following figure, ACDE is a rectangle. Without using a protractor, determine the measurement of angle DEB. Write an equation that could be used to solve the problem. So what do you know about a rectangle? Well, we know something about all of these angles in a rectangle. What do you know about the angles in a rectangle? They are all 90 degrees, right? So we know that first of all. Now, I'm going to highlight the angle I'm trying to find. I'm trying to find the measurement of DEB. DEB. So I know that AED is equal to 90 degrees because it is a rectangle. So therefore, I'm going to go ahead and call this angle, it does say angle DEB, but I'm going to call it X, okay? So X plus 27 degrees equals 90 degrees. Therefore, X has to be equal to 63 degrees. 63 plus 27, yes, I double check my math here. So 63 degrees plus 27, I want to double check that. Yes, so X equals 63 degrees. All right, take a look at 8. Complete the following directions in the space to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and erase my marks over here so that I have some room. Draw 2 points, M and N, using a straight edge. Why don't you try to see if you can do number 8 all by yourself, and then come back and do it and check with me and see if you did it correctly. All right, draw 2 points, M and N, using a straight edge. Draw, and this little symbol right here tells me that I'm going to draw a line. So I'm going to, I don't have to use a straight edge, but you do. So I'm going to draw 2 points, M and N, to create a line, okay? So now I'm going to put my 2 points on here, M and N. Okay, so we'll make this M, and then we'll make this N. Plot a point 0 or O somewhere between points M and N. So let's just put 0, or I keep calling it 0. Let's put O right here in the middle. Plot a point P, which is not on M and N. So let's put P over here. Draw OP, and this tells me that this is a line segment, so I'm not going to put arrows on this. So if you put arrows on it, you want to go back and erase those, because there should not be arrows on this because it's not a line, it's a line segment. Find the measure of MOP and NOP. Write an equation to show the angles add to the measure of a straight angle. Okay, so because I just drew these, I don't know what the measurement is of this. I will have to use a protractor, and you will too. So hopefully you went to get a protractor. If you got stuck on that part and you didn't know what to do there, you're going to need a protractor. Yours is going to be different than mine because obviously you drew yours and I drew mine, and they're not going to be exactly the same. So you need to keep that in mind whenever you're measuring yours. Okay? All right, so, oops, I don't think I want this protractor. I don't like that kind. Let's go back to this one. This one's better. Okay. I like this one better because you can see through it. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and line this up. This is a good time to practice my protractor skills. You can see how this line isn't straight. That tells me that my protractor is not on there straight. So I've got to straighten this up a little bit. Now this isn't going to be perfect, but we're going to do the best we can. All right, so NOP looks like it is 50 degrees. And MOP is 130 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that before I forget. All right, so 130 and 50. So I've got 130 degrees. And 50 degrees. So you go ahead and be measuring yours. And again, yours is not going to be like mine because we drew ours differently, and that's okay. But when I add these two together, they should equal the straight angle, which is 180 degrees. So that's what the last part F is. Write an equation to show the angles add to the measure of a straight angle. So I'm going to say 130 degrees plus 50 degrees equals 180 degrees. Again, your angles will be different from mine, but they should equal somewhere close to 180 degrees. It may be off a couple of degrees because your measurements and your lines aren't exactly perfect, but it should be really similar. Okay, so remember, today's lesson was all about finding the unknown angle, and there were two main angles that we used. We looked for straight angles because we know that the value or the measurement of a straight angle is 180 degrees, and we could use that to find the unknown angle. Or we used right angles because we know that the value of a right angle is 90 degrees. So keep those in mind when you do your exit slip today.